Hi Math 1. This video is going to help us with our next unit of study, which is going to involve equations. So we're going to take a look at how they form equations. An equation is a math sentence. It's a math sentence with variables, which are letters, numbers, and an equal sign. So the equal sign, is what makes the equation something that we can work with and solve. All right, let's use some of these instructions here to form an equation. We're going to form an equation that's going to have letters, numbers, and an equal sign. So the first step is we have a variable x. Okay, so I'm going to put x down. The second step is to multiply by 3. So how am I going to say that this x is getting multiplied by something? I can just put a 3 in front of it. 3x means 3 times x. Okay. Now the next step, number 3, is to subtract 5. So I'm going to take this expression right here, and I have to say minus 5. Subtract 5 from what I already have. And then when they say the result is, that means equals 17. And that's an equation. We have the equal sign, we have some constant numbers, and we have a variable. All right, let's take a look at this second example here. It's similar, but it is a little different in the order of things. So what happens? Okay, so the first step is variable x. Now the second step is they want me to subtract 5 from this variable. So I'm going to say x minus 5. Subtract 5 from what you already have. Okay, now here's where it gets a little different. Multiply by 3. I have to take everything I have so far, take everything here, and multiply by 3. If I put a 3 just by this x, that's not going to include the minus 5. I have to take everything I have, and the way that I'm going to do that is with the use of parentheses, all of this expression multiplied by 3. And that's what the use of parentheses does. 3 times all of that, and then the result is equals 17. Okay, now are these equations the same? And they are not the same. This one has parentheses, and this one doesn't. So they are different. So does the order matter? Does the order of the directions matter? And does the order of how you write things matter? And the answer is yes. Okay? They form different equations. They form different equations, which means we have different equations with different steps. Okay, let's take a look at a couple more. Let's use these instructions to form an equation. Okay, step 1, variable x. Okay. The second thing, they want me to divide what I have by 2. Divide this x by 2. Okay, so for divide, we're going to use the divide bar. Okay, we don't put a divide in an equation, kind of like in chapter 1, we don't put a divide. So divide, I'm going to say here, use the bar, not the one with the dots. Okay, so I have x gets divided by 2. Next, we're going to add 8 to what I already have. So take this stuff and add 8. Okay, so that expression plus 8, the result is equals negative 20. All right, let's take a look at this other side here, okay? The directions go in a different order, so let's see what happens. Start with variable x. Add 8 to what I already have. Add 8 to that x, okay, plus 8. Now I have this expression so far. They want me to divide what I have by 2. They want me to divide all of this by 2. All of that. I can't just put the bar under the x. I have to put the bar under everything. Okay, this entire expression so far has to get divided by 2. all of that divided by 2, a little different than over here. And then the result is equals negative 20. Okay, are these the same equation? No, they're not. Here, 8 is off to the side, and here, 8 is in the numerator of that fraction. Okay, so does the order matter? And yes, these are different. These are different equations. Okay, and when we study chapter 4 and we solve them, the steps are going to be different, just like the steps here were different. All right, let's take a look at a couple of equations they made and see if you can figure out what the steps were. How is this equation made? Okay, so step 1 is always variable x. Okay, so step 1, they have a variable x. So try to find x, color x, or highlight x, and try to look to see, okay, who's his best friend? What happened first? What did they do to x first? And these parentheses tell me right here that this is kind of a group. This happened first. That's really close to x. All this stuff over here, that happened last. Okay, so you find x, and some people say that's his best friend. What happened first to x? They added 6. Step 3, okay? What's the next thing that's close to this? Okay, so if that's his best friend, who's his second best friend? And that would be this right here that they gave to that set of parentheses. This right here is what they did to that quantity. And when you have a number out in front of parentheses, that means multiply. So then they multiplied by negative 3. That's what they did next. And then finally, step 4, the result is 18. Okay, so circling x or finding x is the best way to figure out what happened first. Okay, let's see if we can figure out what happened here. Okay, try to find your variable. There he is. Okay, here's x. Okay, and what's really close to x? I see minus 5 in the numerator with him, and then I see 4, which is in the denominator. The denominator is not where x is. Okay, so the thing that's closest to x, that's what they did to x first. The first thing they did was subtract 5. Okay, subtract 5, minus 5, because that's what's really close to x. Then, after they had all of that, do you see how there's this big bar? They took all of that, and then what did they do? Then they divide by 4. And the result is negative 1. Result always comes last. And is the word that they use. Okay, is means equal sign. And that's what makes it an equation. Finding x and seeing what's close by him, they call that his best friend, is the first thing they did. And then whatever's next to it or down there, that's the second thing that they did. Okay, if you take a look at this equation right here, the first thing they did, if you find x, hi x, here you are, what's close by you? 2, that's his best friend. The first thing was divide by 2, then they added 8. Take a look at this equation. This one has a plus 8, hi x. They added 8 first, then they divided by 2. Take a look at this equation. Okay, find x. Hi x, here you are. Okay, this stuff is close. 5 is inside the house with x. That's his best friend. The first thing was subtract 5, then multiply by 3. Take a look at this first equation that we ever made. You find x. What's close to x? This 3. They multiplied by 3 first, then they subtracted 5. Okay, Math 1, your job is to do the back of this worksheet. Good luck, and I can't wait to see you.